So I'd like to welcome you all, those here in person, as well as for those joining us by Zoom. It is our regular Sunday service, but we're also in conjunction, we're doing, as I mentioned earlier, our 49th day memorial together with this service for Mrs. Hisako Asano. So welcome. Thank you for coming. We'll begin the service with a moment of silent meditation, followed by the recitation of the name of the Buddha or the Onenbutsu. Next, we'll have the sutra chanting, and we're going to be chanting, or first of all, we're going to be doing reading of the golden chain. So I'm just going to bring it up on the screen here. Oops, that's not the golden chain. It's my Japanese. Here we go. Okay. For those of you who are here, the golden chain in the red book is on page 126. So we'll read together this golden chain on page 126 of the red book, or the red seiten. Okay. Golden chain of love. I am a link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure, beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in Amida's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namaste. Next, we will have the sutra chanting, and we'll begin by chanting the Jusei-ge in this red seiten. The Jusei-ge is printed on page 55. On page 55 of the red seiten. So we're going to be chanting the Japanese and then chanting the English version of it as well. And I'll get to the English version afterwards. But we'll start off with the chanting of the Jusei-ge on page 55. For those of you at home, it's on your screen, or I sent it out earlier as well. Namandos, 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 namandos.
Shema
next we will be chanting the English translation of this Jusege. And again, you'll see it on your screen up there. And for those of you who are here, it's on page 117. 117. It's called Verses Reaffirming the Vows. And this is an English translation of what we had just chanted in Japanese. No more notes, no more notes, no more notes. So today we have a special guest. Is it Emily? No. Yeah, Emily, right? Okay. Welcome, Emily. And you're 10? Oh, 10, okay. Are you too old for stories? No? Okay. I'm going to take my mask off. Are you comfortable with me talking without my mask on? Are you? Okay. I'll keep my distance so that we are separated. It's just easier, clearer for people to hear me, and especially when they're on the Zoom. So Emily, I'm going to tell you a story that comes out in the Buddhist teachings, okay? It tells us about balance and why we come to services like this. And in fact, in the chanting that we did, in the English chanting, there was a passage that said, I will, what does it say here? I will proclaim the Dharma like the roar of a great lion. It's on page 118. But there's a passage that says that. So this story actually has to do with a lion. Okay? And in this fable, in this story, it's about a kingdom. Have you ever seen the movie Lion King? Okay, it's sort of like that, okay? So there's one lion who was bigger and stronger than the rest of the lions. And so he was the Lion King. And he made everybody know that he was, in fact, the strongest, the fastest, the best lion there was. And so he ruled the pride and the kingdom, but as time went on, it started getting to his head, saying, I'm the strongest, I'm the best. And so whenever they would go to eat, I'm the first to eat, right? So he became the center of everything. Okay? And this went on for quite a while, but as time went on, slowly the lion, just like your dad, started to find little pieces of gray hair in his fur. And he started realizing his step was getting a little slower than before. And he would still say, I'm the king of the lion, I'm the king of the kingdom, and all the other lions would still follow him. But as he started getting older, things weren't working as well as they used to. And one of the things that weren't working was his eyesight. And so one day, when the lions were out looking for food, the king actually stumbled and fell into a well. And so at first, he yelled out to the other lions saying, hey, somebody, throw me down a vine, get me out of here. And he would yell at them. And at first, the other lions thought, maybe we should go and help him. But one lion said, wait a minute. You know, lately, he hasn't been that fast. We have to do all the hunting for him. And, you know, he always talks about me, me, me. And maybe we don't need him anymore. So the other lions thought, we'll leave him behind. So at first, the Lion King was furious, saying, what are you guys doing out there? I'm the king. Get me out of here. But the other lions started leaving the site. And the Lion King, over a period of time, his voice started changing. And he said, hey, is anybody out there? Help! Help! I need help. Somebody, anybody. So his voice had changed from that demanding voice to now he was really asking for help. Well, at this time, a little mouse came by, and he heard the whimpering voice of this lion at the bottom of the well. And the mouse looked down and said, oh, you seem to be in a predicament. And the Lion King said, yes, yes, everybody's left me. Please help me. And the mouse said, well, I'll help you on one condition. When you get out, you promise not to eat me. And of course, the Lion King said, oh, I promise, I promise. And so the mouse, using all his strength, got a vine, and he pushed it down into the well. And the Lion King was able to climb up this, grab onto the vine, and he clawed his way up to the top, and he came out. And he looked at the mouse, and he said, all the other lions left me. They thought I was no good anymore. And the mouse looked at the king, and he said, you're the Lion King. He said, perhaps, maybe you need to think about what you have been doing. And so the Lion King sat there and he reflected on what he had been doing. And so he realized that he was saying, me, me, me. And because of that, others started falling away from him. So from that, the Lion King learned how to be generous and helpful with others. And he returned to the pride, and he apologized to the pride, and he asked them for their forgiveness, and he was welcomed back with the other lions. So this is a fable that's told in the Buddha's teachings. And Emily, what do you think this is trying to tell us? That's right, you shouldn't always think of yourself, right? So when we gather here for these services, like in your case, you're here for your grandmother's 49th day memorial service, it's a way of expressing gratitude to somebody else. And that's a very important action to do. So when we put our hands together, again, this is expressing our gratitude. You're saying, this left hand is me, the right hand is, in this case, it's your grandma. But we say left hand is the world of suffering, right hand is the eternal world, the world of the Buddha. And when we put our hands together, we're reminding ourselves of our oneness. And we're reminding ourselves where we come from. So remember I was telling you the service is about balance. So you're reminding yourself, your grandma was very important for you to be here today. So we are saying, thank you, thank you. And so I thank you for making the effort to come out this morning and join us. And I'm going to just speak to a little bit to the others as well. So this service, as I was mentioning to Emily, that it is all about balance in all of our services. And I repeat this often about how we need balance in our lives. And sometimes in our daily life, things don't always go as we plan. So as an example of that, I did see Naomi, so she's heard this part of my talk from yesterday. I did the Fraser Valley Buddhist Temple service at 2 o'clock yesterday. Now, it was very interesting because at 10 o'clock yesterday, we had our kids Sangha gathering on Zoom. But when I went to turn on my computer yesterday morning for the kids Sangha, my computer shot out this error message saying, we can't start your camera. Well, you can imagine how trying to do the Zoom when they can't see you, it can be quite frustrating. So the morning service, I had to do it without I could still get on Zoom and I could see everybody else, but nobody could see me. Actually, this is what everybody else saw when they saw my screen, is when I shut off my screen, this is what they would see, okay? This is my family. From a number of years ago, my girls are still very young at that point. But anyways, so I went to the morning service without the picture, but I thought, by 2 o'clock, I need to fix my computer somehow. And I'm sure you've all had computer problems where something goes wrong and you can't figure it out. I Googled it up. I said, my camera's not working, how to fix it. And I did all the things that they were telling me to do, and I was getting a little panicky. And along the process, I found that I could contact Microsoft, the technical support department. And they gave me an option. They said, would you like to chat over the window, or would you like to speak to somebody? So from past experience, I know you get on quicker when you're chatting on the Windows. So I said, chat on the Windows, right? And then this message came up and said, you're 71st in line. Well, you can imagine how long that would be, waiting 71 people in line. So I got off and got back on again, and I said, no, I want to speak to somebody, right? And then they said, they'll call you back. Somebody will call you back. And they said it will be roughly about 137 minutes or something that somebody's going to call you back. So by this time, it's like around 11:30 in the morning. Okay, my next service is 2 o'clock. Okay? So I'm trying to calculate 137 minutes, right? So that's over 2 hours past, right? So I'm figuring I'm really cutting this close because I might not be able to join the 2 o'clock service without my camera. So fortunately, the technician came on, must have been around 1:15, and it's amazing what they can do now, because they took over my computer remotely. I gave them access, and they did all these things, and they fixed my camera. So I was able to join yesterday afternoons, and as well as this morning's. I have my camera going, so I think it's a little better when you have the camera on. But anyways, this whole episode was to show that life doesn't always go as you plan, right? Things come up through our daily life. And for us in Jodo Shinshu, we say that our teachings is all about the working of the Dharma that tells us that we belong or that we are embraced in a oneness that exists. And so even in our daily life, as we have the ups and downs in our daily life, there is something underlying that tells us that there is a oneness that embraces us. And this is what we call Amida Buddha. And there's a passage, so I'm going to just read a passage from the writings. It's actually not the writings of Shinran Shonin, it's his disciple Yuyenbo, but we look at it as a writing of Shinran Shonin, the founder of Jodo Shinshu. And in the first chapter of his Record and Lament of Divergences, or the Tanisho in Japanese, it is said that Shinran said, know that the primal vow of Amida makes no distinction between people young and old, good and evil. Only Shinjin is essential. For it is the vow to save the person whose karmic evil is deep and grave and whose blind passions abound. So in this passage, what Shinran is saying is that it doesn't matter how old you are, good or bad, throughout life, many episodes happen. But what we need to have is this underlying, what we call entrusting heart, or knowing that the Dharma is there. And there's a story or an article that I read by a professor who was a professor at a university in Tokyo, and he had actually gone down for a conference in Okinawa, southern part of Japan, sort of like where Shinobu is in Hawaii, the tropical. But on the flight back from Okinawa to Tokyo, the airplane went through some severe turbulence. And he said that beside him was this little old lady, a very tiny lady, who sat not like you would normally sit in our chairs, but she sat the Japanese styles with her legs tucked under her. We call it seiza. And then for some of the older Japanese, they find it more comfortable. But she sat in the seiza, and as they were going through the turbulence, all throughout, he could hear her mumbling something. And as he listened closely, he realized she was mumbling what we call the Nembutsu, the name of the Buddha. She'll say Nammandabu, 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 over and over again. So when they finally landed, he mentioned to her, he said, "Oh, I'm glad we landed safely." And he said, did the reciting of the name of the Buddha, Nammo Amidabutsu, did that help you? Did it calm you? And she said, with a smile, she said, it doesn't matter what happens, because I know one with the Buddha. And he realized at that moment that for her, despite the turbulence or whatever happens in life, that there's an assurance of this oneness that exists. And so as we listen to the teachings, as we listen to the words of the Buddha, well, we realize that it's all about balance. It's telling us that we are going to have these waves in life, but again, that underlying message, the working of the Buddha, is always there for us. So I thank all of you for joining us for our regular service, and I'd like to close my talk with the recitation of the name of the Buddha. I can ask you to please join me in Gassho. Namo Amidabutsu, Namo Amidabutsu, Namo Amidabutsu. And thank you to the Asano family for joining us this morning. And thank you all from on Zoom for joining us. I will just stop the